We've got handiworks for those people that appreciate crafts. We tried to get the best dolls that we could. We tried to get the best bears that we could. We've got Christmas trees that have been sewn. Also, we have miniature paintings from the Australian Society of Miniature Artists. These are exquisite little gems. Good eyesight. Magnification is necessary to see what you're doing, and sometimes the works are so fine that they seem to be only using one or two hairs of a brush.
Not all the exhibition's works have been created with the brush. Some owe their existence to love.
This bear is called Gina's bear. It was a 25th birthday present, and it was made from offcuts from stage costumes and special bits and pieces that were special to a girl called Gina.
There's even something here for the mechanically minded.
The lever is pulled at the side and she turns to take the money. It's released and there goes the money. And she gets walloped. In it goes, down goes the lever and in goes the money.
A case of art imitating life, perhaps? At this time of year, how easily it disappears. Shared Memories of You is a song that embraces more than 6 decades and countless memories.
I just wanted a flavour of what people felt about the place, because I've always really liked this cinema. You know, I think you get a buzz coming into this theatre as a cinema and as a live theatre as well.
Sydney-based songwriter Alan McFadden was commissioned to compose a piece of music encompassing the important social role the Civic played in people's lives. Born and bred in Newcastle, it's a subject he's well acquainted with.
I did 3 plays here with Hunter Valley Theatre Company. Bedroom Farce I did here, Funny Thing Happened Away at the Forum, and I conducted West Side Story here. So from the early 80s, you know, we did a play a year in this theatre.
On Sunday night, NBN will screen Now Showing the Civic, a half-hour special covering the theatre's life from its opening in December 1999 to its multi-million-dollar restoration.
The Breakers assumed control of the game right from the start, and within 7 minutes Warren Spink put them on the board. The Breakers' dominance continued for the rest of the half, keeping Adelaide scoreless, and the Zebras' goalkeeper Robert Zabika the only thing stopping a much bigger lead at half-time. And although Adelaide's keeper Robert Zabika made some sensational saves, he was upstaged just before half-time by his opposite number, Clint Gosling. And while the Breakers pushed hard in attack, they often left themselves open. Adelaide's confidence soared and they seemed to step up a gear. And with just minutes to go, the Zebras added a third. And the Breakers youth team also played a 1-1 draw with Sydney Olympic last night. The surf seemed small, and again it looked like the strongest crews would run away with the major placings. But in the race to the boys, the wind blew many off course. It was then a battle of skill amongst the sweeps. In the under-21s, Newcastle clubs Dixon Park and Newcastle City started lanes apart but collided on the run back to shore, costing them the final. The under-18s were nearly all upstaged by one of Sydney's leading ladies' crews. The North Narrabeen ladies started well and were quick to get into rhythm, but they drifted away from their turning buoy. By the time they realised, the others were already on the way home, leaving the ladies nothing but a lonely row back to the beach. The Narrabeen ladies are only one of 6 all-female teams in the state and are hot favourites for the New South Wales and national titles. Still on the water, and competitors in the double ski found the going tough. The sprint home looked more like a rolling field of windmills. Womberall's Mike Armstrong and Colin Fisher getting home first after finding a handy wave near the line. In the open board, Darren Borg from Terrigal continued his dominance and is now looming as a major threat to some of the established stars at the Australian titles. And as an increasing sign of the times, only 4 clubs lined up for the march past, even though it was the first round of the State Point Score Championship. Jenkins paid a very handsome $11 and $3.10, a divvy like that boosting the trifecta to just over $2,700. In Melbourne, the feature race was at Flemington and it was the Sortino Trophy. One, 2 and 5. Blue Boss paid $2.50 and $1.40. The trifecta, $44.90.
Newcastle's Paul Harrigan started in the State of Origin Rugby League series and represented Australia in tests against New Zealand. Lisa Ryan is Australia's leading women's wave skier. After coming through the losers pool in South Africa, Lisa won the next 5 heats in heavy seas to clinch the world title. Jason Stoltenberg broke into the world's top 50 tennis players for the first time. He fought courageously for Australia in the Davis Cup final. Shelley Andrews will represent women's hockey. She was a member of the Australian team which won the Champions Trophy in Amsterdam and was dominant in test matches against Great Britain. Men's hockey will be represented by goalie Stuart Deering. He was recalled to the Australian team and excelled when the Aussies won the Champions Trophy. In his first appearance in the green and gold, lawn bowler Sam Lagutsa won 3 gold medals at the Pacific Championships in Canada. Tamworth will have 3 finalists. Athlete Sean Crichton has a long list of championship events, capping off a great year with a world 10th ranking by the Track and Field News. Water polo player Craig Miller was in the Australian team which finished with a bronze medal along with Nathan Thomas at the World Championships. Port Macquarie will be represented by world champion bodyboarder Michael Eppelston. He's in Hawaii defending his title. Lismore has 2 swimmers and a surfer in the Sports Star final. Petria Thomas of Mullumbimby won a bronze medal in the 200 metres butterfly at the World Short Course Swimming Championships in Barcelona. Chris Feidler won silver in the men's 100 metres freestyle in Japan and 2 gold medals at the Australian Short Course Championships in Melbourne. Byron Bay's Pauline Mensah followed 3 major victories by making the final of the last event during a tour of Hawaii and was declared 1993 Women's World Surfing Champion.
This is the nursery for Australia's tennis future, young players signing on to special programs of excellence. Today, that future looked even brighter.
With $3 million now being committed over the next 3 years, it's a huge coup for Australian tennis.
McDonald's made the announcement at 11 centres around Australia. It will mean a new face for tennis in this country. Not only will the hamburger chain sponsor junior tennis as it has for some time, but also the elite players in Davis Cup and Federation Cup tournaments. The $3 million deal is believed to be one of the biggest sponsorships in Aussie sport.
Such a big thing for Australia.
With Aussie tennis dropping back from the glory days in years gone by, this sponsorship should give our players a real chance at regaining the limelight in centre court. Peter Ryan, NBN News. On their home ground, the Breakers came out firing, but it was short-lived as the South Melbourne machine took over. Awera Tifi got the ball under Breakers keeper Gosling. That spurred midfielder Steve Tassios into action with this beauty, and it was 2-0 at half-time. After the break, Tassios took charge with this shot, lifting him to the leading goal scorer in the NSL. The Breakers appeared to be their own worst enemy, and the visitors had more tricks up their sleeve. 4-0, a consolation goal came for the Breakers late in the game. There will be much soul-searching this week to get Newcastle back on track to their early season form. .38 teams started in the Hunter section of the State Schools Championship, and it came down to Taree and West Wallsend. West Wallsend batted first, but wickets fell quickly. Taree's quickie Stephen Wiley was the destroyer. West Wallsend's top batsman Ian Roberts hit 85 in his team's 6 for 147 off 40 overs. Taree came into bat, Jeff Orris hitting 47 and Regan Betteridge 52. Taree too strong, getting the runs, losing just 1 wicket. Taree now goes on to compete against other regional winners for the state title.
The sale will see the closure of the Mooney Colliery. To be retained by the new owners are the Catherine Hill Bay Coal Preparation Plant, Chain Valley and Wallara collieries, which are the 2 last coal mines on the eastern side of Lake Macquarie, and the collier MV Wallara to haul coal to the Port of Newcastle. Coal and Allied's Neville Snedden says while 60 jobs will go, there will be no sackings.
We're introducing a voluntary redundancy system for the next few weeks. We're extending that, in fact, because of the time of year when our employees are coming and going a bit. And we'll be we're expecting really that a significant number of the people who are going will be in fact taken up by that voluntary redundancy scheme.
Contracts will remain in force for the supply of 1.5 million tonnes of coal to Ube Industries in Japan, but the new company will investigate other prospects. Ian Murray of the Mine Workers Federation says the union is disappointed but believes the remaining operation has a good future.
We believe if the mines are structured around that contract, there is a secure future. We've turned those operations around since the retrenchments last year and increased productivity to a stage where the likes of Wallara, that's been in the red for a number of years, has been acting in the black as far as profit's concerned.
Meantime, the state's coal industry profit for the past financial year has showed an after-tax combined profit of $198 million. Industry leaders are concerned the slim returns are now jeopardising future growth and investment in equipment. The state government has been criticised for the slow pace in reducing rail freight costs and the slowdown in the Newcastle Harbour wharfage charge.
On March 2nd, 2 cars, a police van and a utility had stopped at roadworks near Branxton on the New England Highway when a semi-trailer ploughed into the back of the stationary vehicles. Initially, the concertinaed wreckage was so great, police could not establish how many people had died in the crash.
It's horrific. There's only one word for it, it's horrific.
After several hours of cutting open what was left of the blue Nissan Skyline and white Charade, police totalled the death count at 3, an elderly Muswellbrook couple and a middle-aged man from Belmont. 4 others, including 2 female officers in the police van, were injured. Anthony Grubb, the driver of the semi-trailer from Victoria, escaped injury. He's due to appear in court next year on 3 counts of culpable driving. 5 months later, police were astounded when a similar accident just a few kilometres away didn't have the same fatal consequences. On this occasion, a semi-trailer could not brake in time, slamming into a queue of vehicles stopped at roadworks on Black Creek Bridge. The domino effect caused the cars to burst into flames. Craig Graham, who was driving the tabletop truck, risked his own life to drag people from the cars.
The last bloke that I pulled out, he was on fire. I was putting him, that's how I burnt my hand. I was putting him out as I was pulling him out of the window. So that's how close it was. If they were in there any longer, I don't think they'd be alive right now, I don't think.
The state's road toll took a leap on an early January morning when 5 people died in this horror crash on the Pacific Highway near Nabiac. The state coroner, Colin Glass, flew from Sydney to view the carnage. The accident scene was turned into a roadside casualty station when a Toyota Land Cruiser crossed into the path of an oncoming camper van. 3 of the Toyota's 6 occupants, including a 9-year-old girl, were killed, as were 2 of the 3 young men in the Bedford van. Young people were also the victims in this late-night single-vehicle accident near Cessnock in November. The 3 occupants of the Ford Falcon died instantly when their vehicle slammed into a pole. Police revealed the car was travelling in excess of 135 kilometres an hour. This senseless loss of life occurred minutes before the start of a police operation targeting the driving habits of young motorists. Thunderbolts Way, 40 kilometres north of Gloucester, was also the scene of a distressing crash. In November, a driver from nearby Nowandock and his Central Coast passenger when their laden cattle through a safety rail and plunged 100 metres down a gully. There were many other crashes and fatalities this year. However, the encouraging news is fewer people lost their lives on Hunter and Central Coast roads this year compared with 1992.
A passerby noticed fire and smoke coming from the Anglican church after midnight and immediately called the fire brigade.
The brigade arrived. It was well alight at the front entrance of the church, and the boys got to it, and anyway, they made a pretty fair save with minimum of damage.
But the quick action couldn't prevent fire, smoke and water damage, with fire crews working for more than 2 hours to extinguish the blaze.
Church being of an old structure and built of timber, it was, sort of a bit dicey for a while. We thought we might have lost a fair bit of it, but anyway, they've had a good save.
The police scientific squad says it's possible the 100-year-old heritage building was torched, but investigations are continuing. The fire comes less than a fortnight since the town's presbytery house, which had been converted to flats, was burnt to the ground. A 29-year-old man has been charged with setting fire to the flats after a domestic argument. Jason Neuenhoff, NBN News.
The town of Weston once drew its lifeblood from coal mining. Today, many of the surrounding mines have closed, and those who worked in them have retired.
This area once boasted dozens of mines. Well, their closure didn't kill the town, but the government seemed to be doing it for them. We've lost our police station, we're about to lose our bank, they tried to close our hospital, they're trying to close our post office.
Several hundred concerned residents gathered to discuss the latest blow to Weston, the proposed closure of the only bank in town, the Commonwealth. If the doors close, pensioners like 74-year-old Bill McNabb say they'll be out of pocket, having to go down the road to Curry to cash their pension cheques.
If you haven't got transport, as I said before, you've got to get a cab over to Curry and back, and that sucks about $10 off your pension, which is a good slug, isn't it?
It's believed the closure will take effect by early next year. In the meantime, the people of Weston are working on a strategy to keep the bank open.
Rollerblading is still one of the fastest growing sports around, however there's more to it than just strapping on the skates. The new FM stunt team began classes this morning, explaining the basics and showing a few preventative measures.
We encourage all the kids to wear full protective equipment at all times, especially the wrist guard ones. It's basically a case of we're teaching them how to get going, and if they're good enough then we'll teach them how to do jumps and such, but mainly we're just targeting this at all the kids that are just new to the sport.
After an hour or so, the students' confidence was soaring and they were keen to try a few tricks. Some of the stunts may seem tame, but when some of these kids started the class, they couldn't even stand up, let alone go in a straight line.
It's really daunting. I used to be pretty good when I was about the only one around, but now, you know, all these little kids come out and do somersaults and everything. It's quite depressing. It makes you feel old.
The next coaching clinic will be at the foreshore on January 9. Advanced skaters will also have the opportunity to trial for a place in the stunt team.
Nicholas Brannock into the straight. Oh, there's a fall. Nicholas Brannock and Von Sagi have come down. Madawi Prince has gone to the front. We own a Warrior after it. Madawi Prince, we own a Warrior won't catch. Madawi Prince has got the money. He's taken the mile in 156.6.
This is the 10-kilo steel bar used to weigh down Mr Howden's body. It was still attached to his leg when he was pulled from a dam near Dungog last Tuesday. Police have carried out tests, but would like the public's help to try to determine where it came from.
We've searched a lot of properties at this stage, but can't establish where it's come from or found anything similar.
Police are continuing to speak with relatives and acquaintances of Mr Howden, but are finding it difficult to trace his movements. He was last seen leaving his Waratah house on the Thursday. His body was found 5 days later.
We think that he has had other clothing with him. We have been making inquiries and still making inquiries in Dungog, but can't establish anything up there at this stage either.
Police desperately want to talk to a man who phoned them last Saturday afternoon with information about Mr Howden's murder. He promised to call back, but as yet he hasn't.
The information was very helpful at this stage, but we need a bit more to keep going with it.
Jodie McKay, NBN News.
The Four Jacks floating dock has at times been an industrial battlefield, union and management clashing over the employment of casual workers.
It's been a long ongoing dispute that we've continually had with Mr Four Jacks in relation to the use of casual labour. The matter's now finally been resolved.
About 4 maintenance workers were back today after the dock was shut down for a month. Four Jacks can now employ whichever casual workers they wish, not those nominated by the union. In return, the company has offered 30 permanent jobs when the work comes in. Four Jacks management says it's more than delighted with the outcome, saying today is the first day in a new era for the company. Four Jacks boss Steve Four Jacks has been overseas twice in the last 2 weeks chasing work, and the company is hopeful of something coming up next month. While some in the union movement may be angry the union has backed down, Mary McGill is pleased to have saved some of her members' jobs.
Paul Harrigan thought when the physio said he would have to do most of his pre-season training in the pool, he would get out of running laps, but no such luck. Every second day he walks and jogs up and down Lambton Pool.
Today is the first day we haven't used a vest, which about 5 or 6 of the blokes who are injured are using at the moment. All that does is keep your buoyant where you can just basically have the full movement when you're sprinting, so you're basically sprinting 100% without the impact.
The team doctor is happy with the knee's progress, an injury involving an abnormal spur growth that could have eventually severed his ligaments.
I'll have no hesitation in missing out on 1 or 2 trial games if it's not up to scratch. Of course, that's common sense. But plan should be that by the start of the season I'll be fully fit and raring to go.
And in between laps he's often asked for a few tips on his swimming style by young admirers. However, he can't quite picture himself as a Laurie Lawrence just yet.
A few good kids in there can swim too, they go all right.
It may look simple, but this is one of the latest developments in surf rescue technology. A South African company has redesigned sections of the inflatable rescue boat. The new features make turning much tighter and the blunt nose cone more effective when punching through or over waves. The Cooks Hill Surf Club is trialling the new craft for at least 3 months, and if it meets surf life-saving standard, may replace the Zodiac.
We're finding it's a much more stable craft in approach to situations where you need accuracy and such, and it handles very well in the waves.
The company is pretty confident it's already registered Ausduck as its trade name.
They've moved out of Africa, they've moved here permanently, and they want to set up production and even looking at setting it up in Newcastle, which would be very good for Newcastle.
The company has also designed a racing model and intends to establish a surf racing circuit. This boat is capable of nearly 100 kilometres an hour on the water and produces nothing short of a dramatic ride. Watching with great interest in the duck movements is American volunteer lifesaver Rick Bennett. He's also training with Cooks Hill and will take his newfound skills back to train fellow lifeguards in the States.
IRB skills are not something the typical Californian has, and here in Australia
I was made aware by a fellow that trained me that IRB is almost a way of life for the lifesavers.
The emergency department of the John Hunter Hospital averages around 130 patients a day. Yesterday it provided treatment to 172 patients. Staff were expecting a holiday rush, just not quite to this extent. Some of the delays to patients could apparently be avoided though if people in the region were aware of other services available.
We are an emergency department, but certainly the department is used by people that we don't consider our emergencies. People are unsure of what's available to them in their local areas, their local hospitals or their local doctors' surgeries or doctors, what's available to them after hours now.
The John Hunter Hospital does provide the region's primary emergency care, and a campaign has been launched to help people understand just what constitutes an emergency. But it was not just the emergency department kept busy. 100 patients were admitted yesterday, only 40 discharged. Jim Sullivan, NBN News.